Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neuro-linguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage and relationship coaching, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one sessions in both French or English and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV therapy and coaching services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoachddanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our 8th episode of season 28, a very special guest expressing selflessness as an ER nurse during the COVID pandemic and sharing her real-life stories, Jenn Johnson. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Jenn, the floor is yours.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Dan. I'm Jenn Johnson. I'm an ER nurse of over 17 years in Hamilton, Ontario. My goodness, where to start? ER nursing is its own lovely beast, and I was very lucky to fall face first into not only nursing, but ER nursing itself. It's been probably the most tough job that I've ever done in my life, but also the most rewarding. It's led me into places and into people's lives when I would have never ever seen that before. It's one of those things where, yes, it's tough, but I feel like I'm put there for a reason. And through all that, through COVID, trying to bounce back, it's been a very interesting journey just to try and find myself and find the love of nursing all over again.
Well, thank you.
And wrote a book in, excuse me, coming into, oh, so sorry, Dr. D.
Are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. I think you
Are
paused.
you still there?
Yeah, I'm here, but you paused for a second, so I wasn't sure if it was a glitch on the connection or if it was
Oh,
in the break.
gotcha. Yeah, so ending up writing my own book, and exploring how intuition comes into nursing and all the science behind it. And through that has been one of the most fun aspects of reevaluating nursing and reinvigorating myself in it as well.
Okay, excellent. Well, what's the name of the book again, please?
Nursing Intuition: How to Trust Your Gut, Save Your Sanity, and Survive Your Career.
Wow. Okay. And how many years have you been a nurse, Jenn?
17 total.
17 years. Wow. So, okay, so first of all, thank you so much for being here today. I know that the pandemic is, it happened a while back. I mean, it's 4 or 5 years. So if you could tell us exactly when you were in the peak of the pandemic and when you were like saving lives and we were not able to see our loved one who had the virus and so on and so forth. When we saw online and all the media being involved and showing what was the pandemic, how does all the ER rooms were filled to its full capacity and so on and so forth, was there 100% truth to that, or they were embellishing the pandemic?
So a little different, only because Canada and the US, obviously, we have very different healthcare systems.
Okay.
Um, to be honest, like I don't know how it looked in the States, but do I think that they were embellishing? Absolutely not. I think that what they showed was truthful and honest and tried to let people into our world, which was an absolute nightmare at the time. In Canada, I remember, everything closing down, and we watched Wuhan fall, and then we watched Italy fall, then we watched Britain fall, and then we watched New York fall. And I mean, I'm only an hour away from the New York border, and we watched in horror as everything was happening. And we kind of sat there because in our ERs, everybody was so scared to come that our ERs went from seeing, so my ER typically saw maybe like 60 people in a day. We went down to about 10 to 15 people in a day. So all of a sudden, you're expecting the worst to hit. And it was just this very calm, eerie silence because everybody was petrified to come to the emerge. Because if you didn't actually 100% need to be in the emerge,
Mhm.
you didn't come. You tried to call your family doctor, you tried to get an appointment somewhere else. You did your absolute best to avoid us like the plague, and rightfully so. And it was one of those things where it was interesting because we were finally only seeing people who with true emergencies who really, really needed to be there. But everybody who came in was so much sicker than we typically saw because they'd put it off days and days. And, when we normally would see them on day 3, 4, 5 of their illness, now they're waiting till day 9, 10, 11, and they are so much sicker. And so most everybody who actually came in to see us got admitted. It was a very weird time.
Wow, wow, wow. And so for the people like nurses and doctors, were they overworked also in the Canadian system? I mean, obviously when you work too much, you kind of like also are not, when decision making are less likely to be able to render a positive outcome because you're so tired. So were they like, were you guys overworked?
Mhm. So overworked in a little bit of a different way. I know myself personally because my kids were 4 and 5 at the time. When they closed down daycares, I didn't have anybody to watch my kids. My parents were petrified to come in and see us because both my husband and I are first responders.
Mhm.
He was working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I was working straight night shifts. So I would stay up all night at work. Maybe I'd get a nap for 2 hours, maybe three if I was lucky. And then I'd have to stay up all day with the kids. And then I'd have to go straight back into work. And then it just was this horrible cycle where, physically I wasn't overworked physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I was done. I probably shouldn't have been nursing at that point because my mind was completely fried. Just the sleep deprivation and then throw in all the anxiety and the fear and not knowing what was going to happen. It was awful. Yeah.
Wow. So how did you handle it? I mean, how did you manage all of that as parental responsibilities and so on and so forth? I mean, did you ask your husband to be able to contribute more or not?
So again, because we both were doing full-time work, we did what we could. We actually were very lucky. One of the university systems around here had put together a bunch of people who already had police checks done for either their nursing education or their teacher's education, and people volunteered to come and help those of us who were working. So I actually had two volunteers who were confident enough to come into my home and watch my kids while I slept upstairs. And to tell you that they were absolute godsends. It's putting it really mildly. I don't think I didn't come out unscathed, but it could have been a much worse outcome with my burnout had I not had access to them. So I was really lucky that way.
Mhm.
But again, like childcare was the number one thing where
Yes.
our kids were expected to zoom in to school and stuff, and it was just at least my kids that at 4 and 5 were not going to be zooming into JKSK,
No, no.
but you know, they want to be there. They don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the shift in mom and dad's behavior and feelings and what's going on and why all of a sudden they can't go to the park that's literally across the street from us. Um, but I was I was very, very lucky to have that volunteer help.
So were they like, I mean, in Canada, what the healthcare system in Canada, I know it's a socialistic approach and all that. So was it were they giving like the same care as the private system here in the US, or do you feel that it was kind of still like lagging?
I don't think it's lagging. I mean, the wait times here, yes, are awful. if you need, your hip replaced or knee replaced, yes, sometimes you're going to wait a year to a year and a half to get that done. And unfortunately, that then does affect that other joint that's carrying the brunt of the weight. But if you need help and it is an emergency, you're getting the help that you need and you're getting the care to our fullest extent. Absolutely. Um, it's just one of those things where we don't walk out worrying about whether or not we're going to lose our house
Yes.
because of an unexpected illness kind
Uh-huh.
of thing.
Yeah, that's what's happening here in the US with the
Hmm.
fees of healthcare system, etc. It's yeah, definitely does help a lot. But also, I mean, in Canada, people pay for that free healthcare. So in a way, it kind of balances out
Yes.
somehow.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, our taxes, I think we're sitting at a 15% tax rate right now in Ontario, at least.
Mhm.
Um, but when you grow up with it, it's just the norm. That's it's just you get used to it, I guess. But people get mad when we have to charge them $30 for a pair of crutches. And you kind of can't help but you laugh a little bit because yes, it seems like that should be included also. But it's just we get so used to just walking in and out and there's not a bill and it's kind of funny when all of a sudden they're like, oh no, because this is an extra kind of thing, you need to pay the $30 for the crutches.
Yeah, that's wait till they have experience to see how is it in the US, and then trust me, they'll be more grateful.
I can't. No kidding. It's like
That's a
it's
good.
like easily what 10 grand, I think, just to have a baby, if
Oh
that.
my
Oh
God.
man.
So
Unreal.
that's when the insurance even covers a portion of it. So imagine if you don't have insurance and the
Yes.
bill that
Oh my gosh.
it is scary. I mean, it's a one visit in the ER and it's $2,500 right there. So I could just imagine. I mean, the thing is that a lot of people
Oh man.
why it's so expensive is that many people do not have insurance. So those who actually do have the insurance have to pay for those who cannot afford it. So it's
Hmm.
kind of like in a way it balances out somehow. So if everyone has a free
Yeah.
healthcare,
Yeah.
then no one has to worry about the bills. But those who actually cannot afford healthcare, but they still obligated to have to be treated, then yeah, the hospital have to find a way to be able to get the money somehow. It's sad, but this is the case, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us a little bit more about what the length of the pandemic in Canada compared to the US. When did Canada start opening their doors, and when did they start feeling that it was it was getting back to normal?
Yeah. So I know that you guys came out pretty early. I remember I actually had a coworker who didn't believe that COVID was real, even though she was working it with us. And her son was a lawyer somewhere in the southern states. And I think it was like maybe April or May of 2020. And she goes like, oh, like, oh, it's not even a real thing. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, don't you see these people dying? Like, I don't understand what you're not seeing right in front of you. And she goes, "Oh, well, my son works in Alabama or something." And she goes, "Oh, they've opened up the conservation areas and the lakes and stuff." I said, "Oh, is that a good thing?" She's like, "Oh, yeah, it's great." I'm like, "Oh man, you don't even understand." And so I know that we got like Canada got a lot of flack for we kept our borders closed for a long time, like a really
Yes.
long time. I want to say at least a year, year and a half. Like you really had to kind of go out of your way to be able to cross the border back and forth. We didn't open up. When did we open up? So I know that daycares opened up for first line like healthcare people and those who are deemed essential workers. I know that health daycare opened up, I think, September or October of 2020, and that seemed like it took forever.
Mhm.
Um, but we stayed in we did the bubble thing for at least a year. We did, you then had your extended bubble, which was then another year and a half. So, I mean, I remember not hugging my mom for like a good 2 years. And granted, she was scared and she didn't know what to think of us. And especially me being in the ER, I could be exposed to anything at any moment and not even know for a couple of days. So she was really hesitant to kind of even do physical contact, let alone like home visits. So I think it took like a good 2 years before I got to hug my mom again. So I mean that was kind of Canada. We were extra extra careful. Everybody went above and beyond with the 6 feet plus, standing away from each other. Everybody was fairly mindful about the mask situation. We wore N95 masks at work for easily 2 years. And if I never wear another N95, it will be too soon.
Yeah, but then also you have to remember that we had all the COVID tests that were taken at the
Yeah.
airport,
Oh,
charging like $200 per head. I mean, I think there was like
oh man.
a lot of those who capitalized on that, even though it was, yeah, you may say that, well, we didn't want people from the US coming to Canada and having to bring the virus with them. I get that, but I think it was somehow, some way they were like exaggerating when it comes to how many tests had to be taken, how many tests in advance 24 hours in advance or 48 in advance, or else you have to retake the test again. I mean, do you think that was really a cautionary step to take, or was it a bit over
Yeah.
exaggerated?
No, I think it was from what we were seeing with the states, it felt like you guys were getting hit so hard. And, a lot of people, well, I can't even imagine. I don't even know the numbers per se that had died during COVID with you guys. But it was absolutely staggering
Yeah,
compared to those who died in Canada. I mean, you lost easily, I want to say at least 250 healthcare workers easily, I think.
yes.
Um, it just we were petrified of you guys. We absolutely were all just, we felt, at least I felt that, if somebody came over from the States, you stayed away from them because you didn't know. Because again, you guys opened things up a lot quicker than we did. Your stance on vaccines was not that we also didn't have a little bit of push and pull here and there, and some hesitancies from a lot of different people, but not nearly to the effect that the States did. It felt like there was a lot more um, misunderstandings and oh man, the misinformation was absolutely horrendous. So when it came to the Americans, because it just felt like, there was so much more risk associated with you guys, at least on my end. And it just was, especially being on the border. So right now, I work on the strip that goes up and down between like Niagara Falls, Ontario, and Niagara Falls, New York, and all the way up to like Toronto. And it's a main drag. Like there's so much traffic, especially from the US all the time. And when you started to see the state license plates come back up a bit, you were a little, I mean, I was nervous. I didn't know what to think. And again, our messaging was a lot more cautious for a lot longer period. Um, and it just felt like, you know what, I'd rather be safe than sorry.
No, no, that's for sure, absolutely. But do you think that economically as well, because they closed the border for so long, that it affected a lot of businesses that were near the border where American used to go and visit and spend their money there? Or what did you think about that as well?
It's hard because like again, I mean I myself, when we used to live in like the Niagara Falls area, we would jump the border all the time because again, because of the tax difference, it was so much cheaper to buy cheese and groceries and diapers and formula, you know, and then it was just kind of nice to jump the border and go shopping. And we don't have Target, we don't have Walgreens, we don't have, a lot of your very staple kind of stores. And so it was really nice. It always felt like a little bit of a fun trip to be able to go and jump the border and go see what like Chick-fil-A. Like we don't have Chick-fil-A. So it's, oh, let's go get some Chick-fil-A or Chili's. Oh my God, love Chili's. And so, so you'd have those at Olive Garden. Oh my God, we don't have Olive Garden, and we all lose our minds over Olive Garden. So we didn't have access. So it's nice to be able to jump the border and experience your culture and our culture and how they kind of intermingle. As for the businesses, like I know businesses suffered, period. A lot of restaurants went under, especially small restaurants on our end, because we had the extended isolations. You could only have people on your patios. You could only have so many people on the inside, if you could even have people on the inside. There absolute was an economic cost to it. But again, if that economic cost saved somebody's mother or grandmother or spouse or child, I'd pay that cost. I'd pay that cost 100 times over.
So when did they start realizing, Canada that is, that the the pandemic subsided and that everyone was able to open their door after a year and a half? Did you guys still see a lot of fear or feel the fear from others to still stay away from emergency room because they were afraid that someone out there may again start all the pandemic all over again?
Yeah. I think things opened up. I mean, the floodgates kind of opened up about a year after. The people who didn't have to be there, they were starting to come back. It wasn't nearly as many of the kind of walk-in small complaints that we normally see every day. Those still were able to get like Zoom appointments with their doctors. And I know that Canada went, I mean, a lot of our family physicians really, took hold of the Zoom appointments and went nuts with those, which was great. They were actually able to see a couple more people a day because they were just able to go, Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. So it worked for a couple of people. But we also found that people then weren't actually physically seeing their doctor for a year or two, because they couldn't get any physical appointments because the doctors were still doing virtual. So government of Canada was like, okay, virtual appointments need to stop. Phone appointments need to stop. You should be seeing your family physician in person, especially if you've got concerns. Because again, then we get all these referrals from the family physicians because people either underreport or overreport sometimes, and the family physicians, especially if it's a phone appointment and they can't even see you to see what's going on. To be on the safe side, they're just like, you know what, I can't risk it. Just go to Emerge and they'll sort you out, kind of thing. So about 2 years after everything kind of went back to quote unquote normal that we see today. I know that we carried the mask mandates for again a little bit longer than um, even I wanted to. You kind of got to a point where you're like, okay, I've had, COVID a couple of times at this point. I've done okay. Maybe we can kind of bring the severity index down just a little bit because like my face is killing me. um, but it was just one of those things where you're like, I understand the risk and the benefit, and we'd had vaccinations at that point, and I was I think three vaccinations in, pretty well as soon as you could get them. And so I'm like, I feel better. I know that the vaccinations aren't going to prevent COVID, but I know that if I get COVID, I might not even have to go to the hospital because at least the severity of my symptoms will be so much less that then I can manage at home, and maybe with just like a little bit of support from Tylenol and Advil and some fluids and some rest, I'll be able to get over it without needing like serious medical intervention.
No, definitely. I had COVID three times actually. The first time was,
Oh,
yeah, I know. The first time was when I visited Florida from Maryland, and I got,
no.
yes, yes, yes. And it was just like, and we didn't know because even I went to the doctor and said, "Do you think this is the virus from Asia or something?" He said, "Oh no, it didn't enter the US yet, so don't worry about it." But it was.
Oh
I felt like I was coughing
no.
my lungs out. And then 1 year after that,
Yeah.
um, exactly 1 year, it's incredible, Jen, I got it again. So the second time,
No.
yes,
Oh,
yes, yes, yes. The second time around, I felt a little bit like a sneeze. I said, no, that cannot be COVID. But then my
yeah.
ex-wife had it as well. So obviously
Oh,
I knew that I had it and my son as well. So I said, okay, that must be
oh,
COVID, but maybe because now my body is immune to it or it developed immunity, maybe that's why I don't, my symptoms were not that bad. And then a year again
yeah.
later, another time. But then I was
Oh,
ecstatic and I knew I had it because again, people around me had it. So I said, okay, it must be it, but hey, I don't feel anything. So I think
yeah.
I created a natural I would say immunization to this virus. So now it's becoming like no, like become like the flu or the cold. Nowadays, people
Exactly.
they have
Absolutely.
like they sneeze. Okay, I might have COVID now.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, and
yes, go ahead.
so so sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. And that's just it, right? Like now that we're kind of 5 years in, we've got everybody's been exposed, right? So now again, it's more you worry about those who are pregnant and just making sure that they're okay. And then any infants that are born, you're just extra careful around cough, cold, flu season. The don't kiss the babies still stands, and even more so now than previously. But yeah, it's just an exposure. It's an immunity. The vaccinations absolutely help and work. Um, they they just help you kind of get over the worst of it. And really, now that we as a society have seen this many times over and a couple of, I don't even know how many variants at this point over, our bodies are going, oh, okay, this is what this is. This is happening. Not a big deal. We've seen this a couple of times before. This is a little bit different, but it's going to be okay. The second time I had COVID, I think I just had like one stuffed up nostril, and like that was it. But sure enough, like I had been exposed to somebody at work who had coughed in my face. And we found out like a day later that sure enough they were COVID positive. So I'm like, oh, here we are. And I'm like, oh, my one nostril. I'm like, it's not that I don't feel ill. It's just, it's weird. I'm kind of stuffed up. So I was just curious because I mean, we had stockpiles of COVID tests for home. And so I'm like, oh, let me just test. I'm just kind of curious. And sure enough, came up positive. I was like, huh, well, look at that. All right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now it feels like everyone, like you said, it was they developed herd immunity, and then
Yeah.
now we're just kind of like feeling that this virus, yes, it will affect us. The body will develop immunity towards it, and the symptoms will diminish over time. And then as you get, of course, you've got to take care of yourself in other ways. I mean, those who have a strong immune system will definitely heal much better than those who are compromised immune system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Overall, so when it comes to your journey as a nurse, because let's go back to that, do you feel that with all of your hard work during the pandemic time, and do you feel that now you are appreciating nursing much more, or you feel that, wow, that was definitely one big slap on the face?
It was kind of a mix. Like people were so appreciative when everything first started. I mean, they banged pots and pans at shift change for months.
Mhm.
We ended up getting kind of fast passes so that, if you were going to the supermarket and everybody was lining up outside, you could kind of show your badge and say like, no, like I'm healthcare. And they said, okay, like you got a couple of preferential treatments here and there, which was actually really nice.
Okay.
You actually felt like, oh, like I do matter because again, as an ER nurse, like I'm 10 times more likely to be assaulted than police and corrections combined. So that's my everyday. Thankfully, it's not every day that I'm threatened or come anywhere close to violence. Again, that's maybe just the Canadian system versus the American system, and being in a smaller hospital than a big trauma center. But I don't. Violence is in my everyday. It's what I'm used to. So when everybody was so thankful and so appreciative, and I mean, you showed up to work and people brought in food, businesses were bringing in food. It was unbelievable. You didn't have to bring a meal for months, because there was always so much food, kind of left over and hanging around from people who were so thankful, which was so lovely. But on the opposite end of it, I was like, I don't know how to deal with this because I'm so used to being cussed out and spit at and kicked, and somebody, calling me out every name in the book. And so for the public to be so appreciative, I was kind of in a freeze state where I'm going, I don't know how to deal with this because this is not what I'm used to.
Yeah.
It was unsettling, and people were very kind and saying, oh, you guys are heroes and you're saints and all this. And I'm like, I'm not a hero. Like I'm just showing up to work because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I know that I'm needed to show up to work. I know that I'm great at my job. I know that this is where I'm most comfortable. So I'm actually changing my world the least by going into work.
Mm.
Um, so again, when people say hero, I'm like, I don't like the term. It kind of, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't know why, but it's just a weird thing. But when we kind of came out of the pandemic and people started getting the frustration and the anger and the differing views between COVID and masks and vaccinations and all that kind of really bubbled up to the surface, we were once again front and center to be the very first ones to take the brunt of that abuse.
Uh,
And although it sucked, it was like, oh, here we go again. Like, I don't have the time or energy to debate this with you right now. Like, I'm shut down. I don't want to deal with this anymore. It was kind of comforting because, oh, well, this I know. This is how I know how to deal with the public. I don't know how to deal with the public when they're super sweet and thankful and thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know how to deal with that.
yeah.
So it was just a very interesting switch in perspective. But,
Yeah.
here we are 5 years later and we're kind of back to baseline.
Yeah, it is what it like. It's a cycle, as they say. So before we
Yeah.
do the podcast, Jen, where can people find your book?
Yeah. So my book's available on Amazon, Indigo, and Barnes and Nobles. Um, it's also available on my website, www.nursejenn.ca. And on my website, you can find a bunch of my journals as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Jen, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. And again, thank you sincerely for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And we all appreciate your participation and willingness to share your remarkable and inspiring story with a large and loyal audience. Now, to all the millions of listeners out there, we hope you've enjoyed today's episode as much as we did. Now, we're very excited about what's ahead for season 28 of the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, featuring a lineup of incredible guests with powerful stories that will continue to uplift and inspire all of you. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. To every ER nurse who stood on the front lines during the COVID pandemic, thank you is not nearly enough. In the face of fear, exhaustion, and uncertainty, you chose courage over comfort, compassion over safety. You held hands when family couldn't. You were hope in the darkest of hours. Your sacrifice saved lives and inspired nations. You risked everything for people you didn't even know. You are heroes in every sense of the word. The world is forever grateful. My name is Dr. Dan Amzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.